Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Lauren Ash about Chicago Party ad coming to Netflix. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
It's an exciting time. I'm sure you're doing a lot of these interviews. People are asking, what was it like voicing a character on a Netflix animated show? I'm going to kind of ask another but similar question. What was it like diving into the world of Chicago Party ad?
Look, I mean, I felt drunk and I feel hungover. You know what I mean? I lived in Chicago for a few years, and so I have been in this world in real life, and it was a joy to be able to get to kind of go back and reconnect to what were some of the most fun and hardest partying years of my life, certainly.
Absolutely. You do wear many hats with a lot of the comedy stuff, the podcasting and everything. What was it like diving into voice acting? Did you enjoy it? What was that like for you?
Listen, I love voice acting. You know, it's a different kind of challenge, which is really cool because when you're, on camera, you have things like your face that can help you convey what you want to say and what you want to do. So I really like the challenge that comes along with only having your voice to create emotion or mood or what have you. So I'm somebody who gets very physical, and playing Diane, I definitely, there was a lot of like talking with my hands and moving around. And I definitely, ruined quite a few takes by ending up like hitting the mic accidentally or something because I'd get going. But it's such a cool opportunity and challenge. I love it.
The show doesn't waste time, and it's nonstop. It's just nonstop, the whole thing. What can you tell my viewers about Chicago Party ad without kind of giving out too big spoilers?
Yeah. Chicago Party Ant is the story, of course, of my character, Diane, and her 18-year-old nephew, Daniel, who has just graduated from high school, feels like maybe he's not so sure what he wants to do with his life, and he ends up taking a gap year along with Diane, who also is kind of going through a lot of changes in her life. And it's interesting because the two of them could not be more different, but they kind of form this beautiful odd couple that you really root for. And I gotta say, we get to meet her work friends. We get to see this beautiful, beautiful representation of the city of Chicago, which is hilarious and such a love letter to that city. But I think I gotta say, it's an adult animated show. The jokes are raunchy and big, but there's also a lot of heart in this show. The characters are based in, loyalty and love and have such great intentions with one another that I really think people are going to come for the jokes, but they're going to stay for the heart. That's
absolutely. You mentioned adult animated series. When you kind of signed on to this project, did you think about the fact that there are a lot of amazing adult series, animated series in the past, and Netflix as well, and kind of Chicago Party ad kind of gets added to that roster? Have you thought about that? Netflix has done a great job with those.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a huge deal, and I mean, Netflix is a amazing all across the board and in animation as well. And I mean, it's, I grew up watching The Simpsons, obviously, and Family Guy. And I really feel like, that was kind of like, those were the big ones for a long time. But over the past few years, there's been such a kind of explosion with more and more adult specific animation. So it's so cool. And it's so cool to be on a show that has a female lead, which is, and she's of a certain age, which is something we don't often see in animation. I can't think of any other adult show that's what the main character's kind of deal is. So I think it's really cool to be a part of something that obviously is very popular, but also is unique in its own way.
Absolutely. It's going to hit on Netflix. You know this from past, shows like working on Superstore. It's quick. It's fast. It gets posted on Netflix. 190 countries have access to it. Are you prepared for this a little bit because of your experience also with Superstore on Netflix?
Yes. I got to tell you, Superstore had been on the air for 5 years before we ended up being put on Netflix everywhere in the world other than in the US. And you're right, it was overnight. I woke up and I was like, I have 100,000 more Instagram followers. What's going on? And then Twitter blew up and I was like, what's happening? And then I realized that it was all over the world. And then suddenly, I grew up in Canada, and then suddenly people in Canada were like, "Oh, you're on a show," and I'm like, "I've been on the show for 5 years, but I'm glad you found it." So yeah, I'm ready. I'm waiting. I've got my phone back. I got my charger ready to go, ready to get all the tweets. Can't wait.
It's interesting. You look at Dina, you look at Diane. I mean, you're able to play these very kind of funny characters of a lot of energy and a lot going on. You go where the opportunities go as a storyteller and an actor. But were you hoping you were going to be able to play these charismatic characters like when you were younger? When you were thinking about that at all?
Totally.
Yep.
Dina is based on a character that I created when I was at the Second City in Toronto on the main stage there. So when I read that script, I was like, oh, I know her. Like that's like so close to this character that I've done for years. And then when it comes to Diane, I mean, again, I did the Second City main stage in Chicago. And I was told very quickly that I apparently had a Canadian accent that I was not aware of. And so I ended up kind of like adopting this quasi Chicago accent when I was on stage because I just didn't want to stand out. I wanted to, blend in with everybody.
Yep.
And so who knew that 10 years later, a decade, that accent work would come in handy when tasked with this job. So yeah, I mean, it's such a joy getting to play, big fun characters is always fun, but getting to do like a fun voice or accent is like also just like, it's like the cherry on the pie. It's such a trip and it's so much fun.
And have you had a chance to talk about like takeaways in terms of when they get to watch? I mean, we talked about at the top, it's a lot of fun. Chicago Party, there's a lot going on, the relationship with the characters. But have you thought about what you're hoping they get out of it, Lauren, when they watch the show? Have you thought about that yet?
Absolutely. And, I think the big thing, we've seen a real movement. I mean, obviously the world's been going through a lot for the past couple of years. And I think the Ted Lasso effect is so real that people, the kind of cynicism that we've seen in comedy in the past is kind of just not what's hitting right now. And there's such a movement for stuff that is funny, but also just leaves you feeling nice. And I think that that's going to be what I want people to take away, and what people will take away is they're going to come to this show and have big laughs, but they're going to walk away having like a nice, good feeling. There's characters that you root for. And there isn't, it's not just comedy that's jokes for the sake of jokes. It also has the payoff of having characters that are real, that are three-dimensional, that have the, hearts that are based in positivity and loyalty and love. And I think that that's what people will like to take away again, is just that nice feeling that we all crave when, there's things that have gone on that maybe have been a little depressing.
For sure. We need those shows right now, for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting because they're saying that we're in like the golden age of TV and film and content right now, and I agree with that. For me, I always lean on the global access of it. Kind of you talked about with Superstore overnight, all the followers on Instagram because everyone has access to it. But then there's also the quality, the cinematography, the storytelling. Is it a mix of both, or do you think one overweighs the other in terms of why we're in the golden age of content right now? Is it the access or is it the quality, or both?
I think it's both. I think people have gotten savvy because there is so much content that if your content isn't good, it is not going to be well received. I think it's also because we are in a world with the internet where everyone is a critic. It doesn't matter really, people are going to base this on what they see their friends on their Facebook feed posting about, or their Instagram feed. Everyone's voice really can have an impact on the success of a show. So if a show isn't kind of, firing at all cylinders, it's probably not going to last very long. So I think that that's the first thing. There's, as you said, there's a pressure for there to be a kind of high quality and standard. But then I think also it's just a race. Everyone's creating their own content. People are consuming content in a new way, in a much faster way than they used to. There's an expectation that has become kind of developed. I mean, people have asked me about Chicago Party Ant. They're like, is it one a week or is there? And I'm like, no, there'll be 8 that come out on Friday. And they're like, oh, thank God. People don't want to sit and wait for appointment television anymore. We just don't live in that world anymore. So I think that it is like, but that's also a lot of pressure because it means you've got to make a bunch of episodes of TV up front, hope that they hit, and then get right back on it if it does, to make more. So I think it's a golden age of television because it's like supply and demand. People are watching faster and wanting more, and there you go.
But does your sketch comedy background also get excited a little bit too, where the fact that, there are like now more opportunities because there's more like opportunities for content and more opportunities to get things out there? I mean, that's a huge thing as well, I find. Like, just like there's so much content out there. There's so many things that can be made into shows as well, Lauren.
Absolutely. It's a huge opportunity for creators and actors, creative people across the board. It's
Yep.
exciting, and it's exciting to know that there's room for everybody and that everything's probably got a shot, coming from Canada, back in my day when I was coming up, we didn't necessarily produce a ton of original Canadian television up there. But now when you have shows like Schitt's Creek that blow up around the world and win a million
Kim's
Emmys,
Convenience, Letterkenny, so many.
100%. All of a sudden, it paves the way for more of those shows. It allows, which is, I'm so happy for Canada and performers and writers in Canada. That's awesome because people are getting more of a shot to get stuff made. But in general, yeah, it just continues to feed that kind of world, especially in comedy, where it's like, oh, there is a world for this. People do want to see more of it. Everyone's kind of, if you've got a unique voice or a unique story, now you're going to have more of a chance to tell it than ever before. So yeah,
absolutely.
It's super exciting.
Lauren, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on Popternative to chat about Chicago Party, and I'm really excited for everyone to see it. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And people can follow you on Instagram. That's the best place to get you at.
The IG's where it's at, I think, find me. I'm there. Search me. You'll find me.
Absolutely. This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes, until next time, this is Lauren Ash from Chicago Party and coming to Netflix, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.